Here we go. Let's get going. We are live. Hey, everybody. This is Crime and Cask coming at you. Here comes the Cask part. Life happens, bourbon helps. I suggest anything from Kentucky. Maybe a little Buffalo Trace. You let me know what your favorite bourbon is in the comments. I would love to hear it. Crime and Cask. We have 65,000 fans over at the TT. Can we say it? Can we say that word on YouTube? Go check us out over there. YouTube, we are growing this channel. We're up over on WXYZ and on the radio 97.7 in Conchville, South Carolina. Check us out at 97.7 FM. And we are on weekly. I think we're on 12 times a week. It's an hour show on true crime. Check us out there. And I'm on Facebook. I mean, geez, where am I not? I guess Instagram. So do me a favor while you're just starting to watch this right now. Like, subscribe, share, whatever you have to do. Love to be a part of your YouTube experience. We talk a little bit about bourbon. We talk a little bit about murder. We talk about South Carolina crime. Or you can check us out at crimeandcask.com, where I have a new updated website covering all of South Carolina, North Carolina, mainly South Carolina, news and events, investigative news, murder, sports, you name it. Check us out. Would love it. Like and subscribe here. Okay, let's get into it. Today we're talking about Becky Hill. We're talking about Alex Murdaugh, okay? And Becky Hill's alleged jury tampering and the possible judicial findings of obstruction of justice. And you may not have heard that before, but I was listening to a podcast, in my opinion, one of the best podcasts out there. And if you ever listen to Matt and Seaton, they do a really good job. So go check them out. Here we go. Let's get started into this thing. So the controversy surrounding Becky Hill alleged tampering with the jury in the Alex Murdaugh trial has gained significant attention. I mean, particularly following Judge Newman's judicial finding regarding her conduct. And I'm going back in time when I say that. This was all about the time that Juror 785, now known as Myra Crosby, or the Egg Lady, was removed from the Alex Murdaugh trial. Okay. So the question of whether Hill obstructed justice by interrogating jurors, specifically Myra Crosby, without the judge's knowledge, excuse me, or the presence, has sparked a big debate and the legality and the fairness of the alleged actions. Okay, we all know Alex Murdaugh, convicted, disbarred South Carolina attorney, convicted in March 2023 for the murders of his son Paul and his wife Maggie. He's since pled guilty to several financial crimes in state and federal court. He's going to be in prison for a long time, and rightly so. However, we are going to talk not about his guilt or innocence today, but about the jury tampering and the alleged jury tampering by the clerk of court, Becky Hill, who has now since resigned. So according to Myra Crosby, let's get into the weeds right now. According to Myra Crosby, she is juror 785, better known as the Egg Lady. She was removed as a voting juror in the Alex Murdaugh trial. She's written a book. I was a ghostwriter for this book, but she is the author of the book. And in her book called Because Enough is Enough, it's available on Amazon right now. Just go type in Because Enough is Enough, or you can type in Crime and Cask, and it ships within 2 days. It's a couple hundred pages full of details. You will absolutely love it. If you are into Alex Murdaugh or even into true crime, this is the book to read. It's going to give you as Dick Harpootlian said, behind the curtain. It gives you interesting look behind the curtain. Dick Harpootlian, defense attorney for Alec Murdaugh, and he wrote the foreword, one of the forewords for the book. Anyways, Myra alleges that the state used the term summarizing, okay, to mislead or downplay the full scope of what was actually said in what's called the in-camera meeting between her, Judge Newman, the prosecution, and the defense. Okay, so this is all about the Facebook post, the alleged Facebook post, which we now know is just debunked. There was no Facebook post, but this was what she was brought in to talk to them about, was this particular Facebook post. And the in-camera session, which was conducted in private when Judge Newman, the defense and prosecution, it also included a very, I think, critical discussion where prosecutor Creighton Waters exclaimed, "We have found a name." This is in the in-camera summarized version of what's available online of what partially took place in this in-camera session. And he mentioned a name, and it was a name of one of Myra's husband's tenants. He and his living girlfriend, I believe, live in Walterboro, and at the time, I believe his girlfriend worked at Domino's Pizza in Walterboro. All right. Are you all still with me here? Good. So they went out, SLED, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, went out and interviewed these two tenants. And in fact, I need to correct something there. We're not talking about the Facebook page. We are talking about not just the Facebook page. We're talking about the Facebook post, and we're talking about the anonymous email that was sent to Judge Newman. So anyways, they go out, the full body cam and the transcripts of the body cam interview with SLED and her tenants. As I have been told, I have not seen them, have been recorded on video, number one. Number two, there's a transcript of it. And the video and the transcript are currently under seal by the state of South Carolina. They are not releasing it to Myra. The original reason that Judge Newman, in the in-camera meeting with Myra, sealed it was to protect her identity. Because at the time, she was just called Juror 785. And now she's coming out. She's written a book. She put her name on the book. She's no longer Juror 785. She's Myra Crosby. So those are under seal and have not been given out. And you have to ask yourself, given Waters' involvement, did he order the SLED interviews of these witnesses to the email? And if so, I think it raises a lot of conflicts of interest that may undermine the whole trial. The state has plenty of attorneys that are working for them. They easily could have made this request. I don't know. But the tenants claim that, and they stated in sworn affidavits to the defense, that documents that they signed at the courthouse saying that Myra had talked to them about the trial was not true and did not align to what they told SLED the evening that they came out to their house. And this discrepancy leads to one simple solution: release the video. Release the video to the public. And the woman worked at Domino's Pizza at the time. She worked with another person called Christine Avery, who is a huge Luna Shark Discord fan, has, what I've seen, at least 50 to 75 posts on Discord, and also worked at Domino's Pizza. And according to Myra, is or was a friend to Becky Hill prior to the trial. And why is that important, Christine Avery? Because Christine Avery is the one who came forth on an X or Discord somewhere and said she was the one. She was the one that sent the anonymous email at the time, to Judge Newman. And that was after the fact. She also went on to thank Luna Shark and Mandy Matney and Mark Tinsley, attorney Mark Tinsley, for all their help that they provided to her, Christine, for these many months. You decide what that means. But let's get into what Judge Newman's finding of fact. And finding of fact is an important word here. This is Hill's interrogation of Crosby. So one of the key points came up. Judge Newman made a determination on the record that Clerk Becky Hill had, in fact, interrogated Myra Crosby without notifying the court or allowing the judge to be present. And under South Carolina law, such actions can be referred to as significant. South Carolina Code Law 169340, obstruction of justice, is defined as an attempt to intimidate or impede the administration of justice. And Judge Newman's finding of fact that Hill conducted this interrogation outside the legal protocol signals a potential breach of this law. And if her actions are construed as trying to influence Crosby's thoughts on the case without judicial oversight, this could also potentially rise to the level of jury tampering, which is a felony and punishable up to 10 years in the state of South Carolina. But here's what's important about this. When I say Newman's finding of fact, and this is important, Judge Newman was in what they call in camera, which is basically in judges' chambers. He was with the defense, he was with the prosecution, and when a judge makes a statement as such in camera on the record, he does so as or she as fact. And it's generally referred to as judicial findings or judicial determination. And the term in camera, of course, I said, refers to the closed hearing often done to protect sensitive information, minors' confidential data, or private juror information. But here, why would we want to influence, or why would Clerk Hill at the time want to influence Myra Crosby's verdict or have her removed? Why? You have to ask yourself, why would Becky want her removed? Well, according to another clerk who came in to help during the Murdaugh trial, she came in from Barnwell County. Name was Rhonda McElvin, and I apologize if I pronounce that wrong. She's clerk of court from Barnwell County, and told Justice Jean Toll in the evidentiary hearing for Murdaugh's new trial, she told Toll under oath that Becky Hill told her, and I quote, "A guilty verdict would sell more books." And of course, we know, or you don't know, that Becky Hill, she wrote a book called, I don't know, Behind the Closed Doors of Justice or something along those lines. It's since been pulled up Amazon due to plagiarism. Read into that what you want. So Toll states for the record that then Colleton County Clerk of Court Rebecca Hill was attracted to the siren of celebrity. That was a big quote that was sent all around the world on media. And Toll said in her announcement of the ruling, she wanted to write a book, Becky, about the trial, and expressed that as early as November 2022. And this is long before the trial of Alex Murdaugh started. That's what Justice Toll said. So if Becky's motivation for influencing the jury was driven by the desire of money, fame, writing a book, this raises serious concerns about the integrity of the judicial process. She was a officer of the court. And as I said, under South Carolina Code 169340, obstruction of justice includes any attempt to intimidate or impede a juror or obstruct the administration of justice. And Judge Clifton Newman's finding of fact That Hill interrogated Myra Crosby outside the legal protocols signals a possible breach of that law. And if Hill's actions were aimed at securing a guilty verdict to enhance the value of the book, as Rhonda McElvin said, and her public profile, her conduct should be seen as jury tampering. See how this is all fitting really well? Of course, it has to go in front of a jury and a judge and attorneys. And, Becky Hill is innocent until proven guilty. But it is a felony punishable up to 10 years in the state of South Carolina. And it would suggest that Hill used her position to manipulate the trial and the outcome for personal gain, which not only jeopardizes the fairness of the trial, but also undermines public trust in the judicial system. And that's where we go back to Alex Murdaugh's Sixth Amendment right to a fair trial. Now, many out there make fun of that because they think he's a POS, and maybe he is. However, I don't care if it's the worst person in the world, especially if they're a United States citizen. But if you're in this country, you're entitled to rights. And one of those is the Sixth Amendment, a right to a fair trial. So forget that he's an awful person. Forget that he's been convicted of murder. Forget that all these financial crimes, you have to set that all aside. You have to be able to compartmentalize that and say that, yes, even I know all this, he still deserves a fair trial. Which, if all this, what I've said is true, then he didn't receive a fair trial. So this is interesting here. This is an interesting aspect. There's an attorney out there, Eric Bland, and his possible agreement with jury misconduct. And I'm going to try to say this the best I can. In an appearance on Court TV, so maybe I can try to. Maybe I'll show you that. I'm going to show you the interview. You tell me. There we go. Share. Let's play it.
Very special guest. Want to welcome in now, friend of Court TV Network and the attorney who represents multiple other jurors in Alex Murdaugh's case, attorney Eric Bland. Eric, good morning. Share with us your thoughts on this, please.
Good morning, Julie. I'm always dubious when jurors about a year and a half later or an extended period of time after a trial and they're, subject to direct and indirect influences, decide that they're going to change their verdict, specifically Juror Z. Juror Z was polled, came in, and she raised her hand and said that her verdict was her own conscience and was not subject to any pressure or duress. She is now saying that not only was she influenced by what Becky Hill said, but she was also influenced by the jury. I'm dubious of that. As to the egg lady juror, if she is to be believed in that she had multiple discussions with Becky Hill during the trial, where she discussed whether she didn't believe that Alex was guilty, she has violated the oath by Judge Newman, and she was rightly removed from the jury if she engaged in those discussions. My 6 jurors testified that they had not heard anything from Becky Hill that was inappropriate.
Okay. So there we go. You heard him say it. And that's an interesting aspect of it, because if you think about it, he may have inadvertently supported the conclusion that Becky Hill may have tampered with Myra by stating that Myra Crosby was rightly removed from the jury if she engaged in improper discussions with Hill, right? You heard him say it. And here's what's notable. It indirectly affirms the seriousness of the allegations against Hill. Myra's potential bias or discussions with Hill could have tainted the trial. Okay, follow me on this one. let's jump back to Judge Newman. Judge Newman, who highlighted that Hill's conduct in interrogating a juror without his knowledge was inappropriate, reinforcing the idea that Crosby's removal alone does not address the deeper issue of potential jury manipulation. As I said, when Judge Newman said that, when he was, I'm not too happy that the clerk is interrogating jurors without my notice, without me knowing. When he said that in camera, it could be it could be inferred that is a statement of fact on the record. So when I say Eric Bland inadvertently may have supported the conclusion that Becky Hill have tampered it, it's because what Judge Newman said, what she did, Newman admitted it. And what did she say in that? Well, you can read the book, Because Enough is Enough. She goes in detail what was said in that room. And according to Myra and what she wrote, it doesn't look good for Becky Hill. I can tell you that. So, as I said earlier, Matt and Seton, they have a podcast called Impact of Influence. If you haven't listened to it, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple, they're on YouTube here. Seton's dad is an attorney and law professor at Temple University, and he commented on this podcast just recently concerning what Eric Bland had said. And I had to listen to it a couple of times because it really makes sense. And that he believes that Bland is not correct on this. He's incorrect. That Hill was a person that dealt with the jury on a daily basis and then clearly was talking to many jurors, including her friend, according to Myra Crosby, the jury foreperson. And it is this law professor's belief that Crosby should not have had red flags going off like Bland asserts that she should have. I mean, she's a juror and you have the clerk of court calling you into her office from a bailiff, Mr. Bill. Has anybody interviewed Mr. Bill? Because I think he's got a lot to say. But if we go back to Eric Bland, he's the self-proclaimed friend and confidant of Creighton Waters, the assistant attorney general for the state of South Carolina. And Eric has publicly mentioned that he and Waters frequently communicated during the Murdaugh trial, often in the early mornings, texting or talking, and stated that he offered many questions to Mr. Waters and advice to him throughout the trial. In addition, it's also note that Bland has clients who have won millions of dollars in settlements related to Alex Murdaugh. And he also represents 6 jurors from the Murdaugh trial on a pro bono basis, which means he does it for free. You can go to crimeandcask.com and see the actual interview that Bland has on with, I think it's one juror's name is Amy, and there's another one. I believe it was on ABC, but I'm not sure. Anyway, they say in this interview, directly in the interview, that Bland initiated the conversation to become their attorney. Now, why is that even why am I even saying that? If what the jurors are saying is true, that Bland initiated the conversation to become their attorney and offer it for free, it raises potential ethical concerns, as most states, including South Carolina and the American Bar Association, ABA model rules of professional conduct. And that prohibits attorneys from directly soliciting potential clients unless there is a prior relationship. And of course, he did not have a known prior relationship. So what does Myra's testimony tell us? Well, in her book, Myra recounts the moment Judge Newman asked her in camera whether Hill had spoken to any other jurors. And this is important because Myra's response at the time was, "Not that I know of." Now, let me correct that. Not that I'm aware of. And I need to clarify that for Myra because she clarified that for me. And at the time, Myra was the only juror who had been called out of the jury room. So Mr. Bill comes in and says, "Juror 785, the clerk of court needs to see you." Okay. Well, now every other juror is turning their head. Yeah, okay, let's go. We got to go see the clerk. So it's there that when Judge Newman asked her, "Had Hill spoken to any other juror?" And she says, "I'm not aware of." What she meant by, and how she clarified in her book, was that she knew of no other juror that was pulled out like she was, where a bailiff came and said, "Juror so and so, I need to talk to you. Come with me." And that's what she meant. She said, had Judge Newman asked whether Hill had discussed the case openly with the jury, Myra said she would have stated her answer would have been a definitive yes, quote unquote, implying a potential misunderstanding of the original question of what Newman had asked of her. So, the smoking gun, is there a smoking gun? Well, let's ask bailiff Mr. Bill, because he was the one that had called Myra and or either another bailiff. So I don't know if any of the bailiffs have been interviewed, but they need to be put on the record. Court staff. And according to Bland, he says, his other jurors said they never heard anything. Well, there's another juror, Mandy Pierce, who says the same thing, that yes, she did hear it. So you have to ask yourself, why are these other jurors saying it didn't happen? And two jurors are saying, oh, it happened. And not only two jurors, there was a couple more that were in the evidentiary hearing that said, yeah, they heard it. Either that or all these jurors are deaf. I'm not sure, but and then there's the juror conversations and the mixed signals, right? So Myra, and a separate issue regarding the jury's behavior during smoke breaks. So there was apparently 6 people that were smokers. And Myra explains that the jurors frequently discuss the case amongst themselves, sometimes in presence of the bailiff, who was often nearby, smoking a cigarette or on his phone. And another juror, Mandy Pierce, also reported similar issues in the jury room. And I have spoken to both of these women. And Mandy Pierce says, yeah, she would look at them and say, would you guys stop talking about this? And they would just look at her and then turn around and keep talking. The reason I know it happened with Myra is I asked her the question. I said, I heard her light up a cigarette one day. And I said, oh, I didn't know you smoked. And she's like, yeah, bad habit. And I said, oh. I said, well, knowing about the alleged Becky withholding cigarettes while the jury deliberated, which according to Mandy Pierce is true, I asked her, I said, well, what did you guys talk about? And her response was, well, what do you think we talked about? And I was like, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. She's like, but they talked about Murdoch. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, are you telling me that Judge Newman was just talking to you guys as jurors and telling you, don't talk about the trial, jurors? And the first thing he did when they walked out and they got cigarettes in their mouth was talk about the trial? She's like, 100%. And Mandy said the same thing about the jurors in the jury room who were not smokers. So that's interesting. And, and I think Bland also made the assumption, excuse me, that Myra should have told on the other jurors. And when I talked to Myra about that, I mean, her point was the bailiff was standing right there. He was either not listening, but he was within earshot and within 10 feet and could have easily heard what they were talking about. The jurors weren't like whispering, like, oh, did you see Alex? Oh my God, he's guilty. They were just talking like normal people, having cigarettes. They're like, oh my God, and laughing about it and joking about it. Now, Myra would say she didn't talk about it. She stood there and was smoking her cigarette. And I've been around her quite a bit. She listens a lot. She in my opinion, feels like she's always evaluating what you're saying, and then talks a lot with her facial expressions and her eyes. And she has said the same thing. So it's just like, roll her eyes kind of thing. So there's a lot going on in this that is still unanswered. But I think the biggest thing you can take away from this is what Judge Newman said. I don't think anybody has looked at this and said, well, that is, judicial finding, judicial determination. He said it on the record that he didn't like the fact that Becky Hill was interrogating a juror without notifying him first. He didn't like it on the record. So if that's on the record and the judge said it, that means it happened. Otherwise, he wouldn't have put it on the record in camera. He's been a judge for a long time. He knows what to say and what not to say. So I think that's a big thing you need to take away from this. And then, of course, you add in, the people who are opposed to it, people like Eric Bland, who I believe, in my opinion, inadvertently supported the conclusion that, Becky Hill has possibly, allegedly tampered with the jury, with Myra, based on what Judge Newman said. But, all of this could be cleared up by the state of South Carolina, and all they have to do is just release all the records. They say it's due to ongoing issues. What they haven't said what the ongoing issues are. All we know about Becky Hill is that I think it's the 11th Circuit Solicitor's Office is doing an investigation with the state attorney general of her and alleged misuse of funds. I don't know where that's going. I haven't heard any updates on that, but that's where it is. So those are things that I think you should take away from this. I think we need to talk to Mr. Bill. She kind of explained things what happened in the jury room, things that were asked of her by the judge, and she explained those. But it's the finding of fact that South Carolina obstruction of justice laws, the sealed sled videos, they all paint a picture of this potential jury tampering and possible lies, according to Crosby, from the state of South Carolina about what happened, about what really happened. And I think we all need to know that. I'm not the only one out here proclaiming this. This is public information. It needs to be given to the public. The state of South Carolina works for the people of the state of South Carolina. They don't work for, technically, okay, there's a chain of command. There's the people that they work for. It all runs up to the governor, but the governor is elected by the state and the people of the state to run the business. And we need this transparency with them. And I haven't seen any of this, but if Myra Crosby and her attorney, Joe McCullough, are asking, demanding, requesting that this information be released, you have to ask yourself, if it proves that, let's say, for example, if it proves that Myra was lying, why would Myra want that out? Because they've seen it, they've read it, they've seen whatever videos are there, they've read whatever transcripts are there. And according to them, the summarization that the state put in of the in-camera, according to Myra, is what's called a lie. So we shall see. I don't know. There is this is going to the South Carolina State Supreme Court. And this thing has gone up the ladder fast. But as the details continue to unfold, we will inform you, and we'll get any of the legal scholars out here who want to talk about this, because I think it's an important issue, especially when you talk about Judge Newman and finding a fact. So anyways, check us out. We've got crimeandcask.com. There's a new and updated website. Actually, I will show you the website here. I will share this with you. It's kind of cool. Let's see if I can talk you through it. I'm going to share my screen, and here we go. All right, so we have got the new website. We got the logo up there. We talk about South Carolina news, what's popular, what's trending, breaking news. We've got video on here, South Carolina sports, South Carolina festivals and events. Cool stuff. If you live in South Carolina, or if you don't live in South Carolina, cool things you can do in the state of South Carolina. With all the festivals and events that we have all over the place. From there's a shrimp festival going down by Little River, South Carolina, I think in 2 weeks, which is going to be fun. There's all kinds of Revolutionary War reenactments, Civil War reenactments, all kinds of fun from our state. And while you're at it, think of the folks that were the folks who were affected by Helene in the state of South Carolina, North Carolina, and Tennessee. It is decimated. So say a prayer for them and keep them in your thoughts. Do appreciate it. That's it. That's all I got for you. You let me know in the comments what you think about what I said. And again, like, follow, share, tell you all your neighbors about it. We love it. South Carolina, crime and Cask. See you. Bye-bye.